Hello everyone! Today we'll talk about some of the subjects in Chapter 3. Some of the material in this chapter will be covered by your online discussion and some is covered by the external videos that I've posted. What remains are three important topics: food security, foodborne illnesses, and environmental contaminants. Throughout the world, food is not readily available. In the US, about 15% of households are food insecure, meaning that they do not have access to enough nutrient-dense foods to keep healthy. Food insecurity is closely linked to poverty, and a similar percentage of households are considered impoverished in the U.S. The burden of poverty can affect children more heavily than other groups. 1/3 of the 40 million people who live at or below the poverty level are children, and some ethnic groups are at greater risk of living at poverty. Your book notes that 1/4 of African Americans and Native Americans live in poverty. Although food insecurity exists throughout the United States, it's generally a bigger problem in the South, with nearly 25% of people who live in Mississippi reporting that they don't have sufficient healthy foods. When people live with too little healthy foods, they can experience poor physical and mental energy, children can experience decreased growth, the body may begin to degrade existing muscle and fat stores to contribute to survival, and the immune system can suffer, leaving people at greater risk for illnesses with prolonged recovery time. In extreme circumstances, starvation can lead to death. In the U.S., there are several programs available to help increase food security. These include SNAP, WIC, school food programs, and specialized programs for seniors. SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is a federal program that helps low-income households purchase foods. In Iowa, there's a wide distribution of participation from counties that take advantage of programs like SNAP, from over 20% in Des Moines to less than 8% in Iowa County. There are a lot of people out there receiving help from this program. The other major topic I'll discuss is foodborne illnesses. Foodborne illnesses can cause death, hospitalization, and a lot of discomfort. It's particularly dangerous for someone with a compromised immune system, for example, someone with HIV or diabetes. Pregnant or breastfeeding women have some special concerns for foodborne illnesses they could pass on to their fetuses or babies. For example, Listeria is a type of bacteria, and infection with it can lead to miscarriage. Infants, children, and elderly people can have more difficulty resisting the effects of vomiting and diarrhea caused by these illnesses. But what causes them? They can be caused by bacteria, viruses, mold, toxins, prions, and parasites. The microbes that can cause illnesses in food are viruses and bacteria. These can be passed to food when it gets into contact with feces directly. For example, when someone doesn't wash their hands after changing a diaper, or when manure is not washed from fresh foods. Illnesses can be caused by cross-contamination, like when you use the same cutting board for raw meats as vegetables. The raw meats are cooked, which kill the bacteria, but the vegetables may not be cooked as thoroughly. Illnesses can also be caused by infection from someone. This would happen if someone's bodily fluids were on the food, either saliva or blood. Even though most bacteria are friendly, the pathogenic kind can cause illness. Bacteria thrive in warm, wet conditions that have some nutrients. Something like chicken broth is a great medium for growing bacteria. But most foods can be. They grow when the temperature is between 40 and 135 degrees. That's why refrigerators are set below 40 degrees, and we generally cook foods well above an internal temperature of 135 degrees. This 40 to 135 degree range is known as the danger zone for foodborne illnesses. Beneath 40 degrees, some bacteria can still grow, but most can't. Above 135 stops the growth of bacteria. Above 165, bacteria will be destroyed, as well as parasites and other organisms. Besides bacteria, other life forms can cause illness. Viruses are much smaller than bacteria, and they can only reproduce inside a host, not, for example, on the countertop, like a bacteria could. One example would be norovirus, which is a virus easily spread in water that causes outbreaks of vomiting on cruise ships. Parasites can be a few different types of organisms. Like viruses, they require a host to live and reproduce. An example of a common parasite is Toxoplasma, which causes toxoplasmosis. This parasite is present in cat feces, and infection with it in a pregnant woman can cause damage to a developing fetus's brain. Prions are a different type of pathogen. They are misfolded proteins. You may have heard of mad cow disease or bovine spongiform encephalopathy. That disease is caused by proteins in the brain that urge other proteins to fold improperly, leading to brain dysfunction. It's largely caused by consuming infected brains. Toxins are the last class of infectious agents. Toxins are a group of chemicals released by plants and fungi that destroy tissue. Mycotoxins are released by fungi, and they begin to degrade the surrounding tissue. Different toxins have various poisonous effects depending on the species that produces them. Aflatoxin is a relatively common type of toxin that is produced when from the mold that can develop on peanuts and corn. This toxin is actually carcinogenic. Ingesting it has been linked to increased rates of cancer and allergies. Some types of mold are very dangerous, but others aren't quite as bad. The normal spoilage process that you've seen on fruit is usually caused by bacteria, yeast, and various molds floating in the air that colonize the food. It's really not advisable to eat food that has signs of spoilage because mold spores take hold of the food far beyond the surface where you can see the spoilage. Water can be another source of illness. Although public water and bottled water are regulated by the EPA and FDA, respectively, there are occasional issues. Agricultural runoff can pollute public water with pesticides. Human waste and harmful chemicals can sometimes make it into the water supply. And leaking boats and ships can release waste into lakes. To prevent illnesses we've talked about, you should keep a few things in mind. First, do not purchase spoiled or damaged foods, and do not use goods after they've expired. Do not use well water that may be not safe, and do not eat raw foods. Wash your hands if you're sick or if you use the bathroom. Wash and sanitize food preparation areas and utensils. Wash fresh food and be mindful of cross-contamination, and make sure you've cooked meats to an internal temperature of 160 to 170 degrees. Do not leave food out, and refrigerate it promptly. Environmental contaminants can also affect foods. These are non-biological agents that can affect health. Lead is a metal present in older houses, and paints, and pipes. It can be toxic to the developing nervous system of children. Dioxins are chemicals that are a result of industry practices. They can leach into water, where fish ingest them, and then we can eat the fish, causing damage to the liver and nervous system. Mercury is a metal that can also accumulate in large predatory fish, like swordfish and shark. It can also affect the developing nervous system. PCBs are polychlorinated biphenyls. They're chemicals that exist in the environment due to past industry practices. They can also contaminate fish and are known to affect the reproductive system. Pesticides in agricultural runoff are still a major issue in some areas. They affect the environment, and their effects on humans are still under study. Many researchers think that pesticide runoff increases one's risk for Parkinson's disease. Pesticides are regulated by 3 federal agencies, the EPA, FDA, and USDA. In foods, there's a tolerance or upper limit set for various pesticides. If you want to avoid consuming pesticides, you should wash and peel your produce, trim away fats, and you can even buy organic food, which may have some trace pesticides from the environment. The topic of organic food is available for the first class discussion, so if you're interested, feel free to share your opinion. There was a lot of information in this chapter. Hopefully this has given you some help in understanding food security, foodborne illnesses, and environmental contaminants. Make sure you read the chapter and watch the other videos. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.